Stuart Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Labor will support this bill, but with reservations. Let me first make a couple of comments. It is sad to see the Minister speak on this bill, Mr Speaker, because I thought she was a particularly good police minister who understood what was going on in the regions and had put forward a package to Cabinet that I think was going to really make a difference, was going to trump us right across. Unfortunately, for some reason, unbeknownst to any of us over here, she lost the portfolio and was replaced by someone who really has absolutely no idea. Well, we do know the reason, don't we, Mr Robinson? But she was a good minister who understood the issues and was replaced by someone who really didn't. But as a consequence, we have the minister who has taken over this bill. We can't blame the minister for this bill because she wasn't the minister when this was introduced. Mr Speaker, Finance and Expenditure has heard, what, Mr Robinson, 8, 9 bills this term? At least 8 or 9 bills. And it has got to the stage where submitters who spend an incredible amount of time and money and energy on writing submissions have said officially, this is not the way to craft tax legislation. It is not the way to do it. There was too much before the committee and it is not good policy. Even the experts who used to work for the IRD are sort of saying this is not the way it should be done. And the reason I say that, Mr Speaker, because I'll give an example of this, but the reason I say this is tax legislation by its very nature has to be robust. It has to have a wide level of consultation so when it goes out and is signed off by the Governor-General and becomes law, it is difficult to avoid. There are always people with huge brains who spend an inordinate amount of time trying to find loopholes, and that's the nature of it. But within this piece of legislation, as an example, Mr Speaker, we are amending a tax bill that passed before this House not 6 months ago. That is not good law. And Mr Speaker, just to really show what a farce this is, we had members of the public submit on a bill that, in fact, we weren't hearing. They got confused with what bill it was and came in and submitted to the wrong bill. That just shows how poorly this government is treating tax legislation. Now, Mr Speaker, let me anticipate what Mr Scott and Mr Bishop are going to do. They are going to stand up and say, we are the business of government, and this AIM method, the accounting income methodology, is great for business because it's going to simplify the tax system for the small to medium business owner. Well, it will simplify the system. Of that there is no doubt. It is quite similar, even though not quite as good, to the one that Labor released in opposition about 12 months ago. But the thing, Mr Speaker, is it's taken them 8 years. The party of business, it's taken them 8 years to introduce a piece of legislation that makes it easier for business. That is not what the party of business does. In fact, Mr Speaker, the vast majority of my friends, and I've told this story before, but I just smile every time I hear it, they say, you know what, philosophically I suppose I should be national, but my business always does better under Labor. Labor always passes the sort of legislation that helps my business. And this is the case. 8 years, and I know Mr Scott and Mr Bishop and a whole lot of national MPs will have been lobbied by different businessmen and women who have told them provisional tax is a real bummer. It's hard on cash flows. It's hard to make ends meet. When we have a great year, it's fantastic, but the next year when we have to pay our provisional tax, it's really difficult. Can't you do something about that? Now, the reason I know these gentlemen will have been lobbied on it is because we have been lobbied on it numerous times. It is probably the main bugbear of small to medium business owners. The tax is hard to comply with and it's hard to pay. It bugs up cash flows. So they've come up with a solution. But it's only taken them 400 weeks. What does that say about the party that so-called stands up for business? They've been asleep at the wheel. And, Mr Speaker, I suspect this bill will get the royal assent before the election, but only just. So it's going to be 9 years while their constituents, who in fact are probably our constituents from what we're hearing more and more, have had to deal with provisional tax. And I wonder, and that we couldn't clarify this at all or quantify it, but I wonder how many businesses actually ended up going under because they ended up with a massive tax bill. I mean, I know what it's like, Mr Speaker. You know, I'm one of these people who, you know, when I was running my own sort of business and just a small one, and I thought I was dedicated on this. I'd put aside a certain amount of money for my GST and my tax. And then something happened with the car. Oh, no, I've got to pay it out of this account, but I will, I'll put it back. And then I got a GST bill and provisional tax, and I was like, oh my God, that's right, I had to put money back in. Provisional tax was difficult. It made it difficult, and we can't expect our small to medium business owners to be financial gurus. What we can expect them to do, and in fact what we want them to do, is being really good at running the business that they have core competencies in. That is why the tax package that Labor introduced for small to medium businesses was so good, because it took a lot of this worry, a lot of this, a lot of this planning, a lot of this cash flow management out of the hands of the small business owner, if they wanted to, and allowed them to concentrate on the issues that were important to their business. This does this to a certain extent, not the same level, but to a certain extent. That's why we're supporting this, because quite frankly, anything that makes it easy for business to operate, of course we're going to support. It just could have been done better. And I wonder aloud, if in fact they saw our proposal and went, shivers, this is pretty good. But of course, politics being politics, we can't adopt this, we better come up with one of our own. So they come up with one which was not too bad. It wasn't very good, it just was not too bad. And it will make a bit of a difference. It doesn't come in for what? In fact, it doesn't come in until after the election. But it just could have been so much better, and it should have been so much earlier, and it could have been so much earlier. You know, that's the thing about this. The other thing I want to talk about briefly, and I know that, well, I'm assuming that Mr Robinson is probably going to talk about this in length, is the foreign trust rule. Now, I had to smile to myself, Mr Speaker, when I heard Minister Woodhouse say, when it talked about a certain candidate doing a flip-flop. The reason that made me smile, Mr Speaker, is I distinctly remember the Minister of Revenue saying on the television and on the radio, and I know this because I followed him in an interview, and on the radio, we do not have a problem. There is no problem with the foreign trust regime in New Zealand. Move on, nothing to see here. Well, was it a week later or was it a couple of days later? That's right, yeah. So a couple of days later, he came back and said, well, we might have a problem. And then, of course, it got escalated to the Prime Minister, who knew there was a problem. He just sort of hoped that his minister would cope with it a little bit more competently than he had. And the minister came out and said, well, they're not really doing anything illegal, but it might be immoral. Well, in my book, Mr Speaker, we've got a problem. When the Prime Minister says the tax wars don't work, we've got a problem. And the interesting thing, Mr Speaker, is when we have a look at the regulatory impact statement for this bill, the IRD themselves say that there was a problem with this regime. They said whether it's real or perceived, it doesn't matter. There is a problem. And so we've got to fix this problem, Mr Speaker. There is no doubt about that. And what happened is the IRD considered three different options. The first option was the status quo. The second option is what we're going with at the moment. And the third option was to actually remove any ability to have these foreign trusts. And the interesting thing, Mr Speaker, is they acknowledge that, you know, and I quote, option one, main objective, the status quo does not meet the objective of reducing the potential for perceived misuse of foreign trusts in New Zealand. So the IRD knew there was a problem. In fact, I had understood they knew there was a problem 2 years ago, but didn't do anything about it. But the interesting thing, Mr Speaker, is the option two that we're going for, which is what is in this bill that we're debating at the moment, actually says, and I quote, more disclosure in relation to foreign trusts and access to the information by relevant agencies would make it difficult for these vehicles to be used to avoid foreign tax. Would make it difficult for these vehicles to avoid foreign tax. And Mr Speaker, that is not what we're trying to do here. What I thought we were trying to do is maintain New Zealand's reputation for integrity. Now, one thing we know for certain is that there are some very intelligent tax lawyers whose role is to find the loopholes. And when there's something that's difficult to do, all that does is just create a greater challenge. They love this sort of stuff. Option three, Mr Speaker, would have removed any ability whatsoever to do this. And the regulatory impact statement admitted that. But we've gone for something that, you know, is it the right thing to do? In my gut, I don't think it is, actually. If we are serious about brand New Zealand, about maintaining our global integrity, I think what we should have done is said, hey, let's leave this right behind. If you want to do a foreign trust, if you want to hide money, even if it's difficult, go to Bahamas, go somewhere else, but don't do it here. I, Mr Speaker, think that would have been the right thing to do. So we do support this bill, but with serious reservations. Thank you very much.